Hello, BookTube. We're continuing on with bookcase number 8. It's the top shelf, or shelf number 1, we'll call it. Part 2. So we're continuing on with the literary theme, and we'll go right into it here. The Oxford Book of Literary Anecdotes, edited by James Sutherland. This is fun to dip in and out of. Clarendon Press, Oxford, 1975. I'll give you some examples here. A nice big introduction. Let's see what the table of contents are. Well, maybe it doesn't have one. So we start with Cadman, flourished about 670. William Congreve is number 80. See how they're numbered there? So number 228, Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So pretty cool. Then we'll go William Bly as the editor of Why I Write, Thoughts on the Craft of Fiction. Includes essays by Pat Conroy, Richard Ford, Elizabeth Gilbert, Jim Harrison, Ann Patchett, Dennis Johnson, let's see here, Robert Stone, William Vollman, who I really like, David Foster Wallace, Stephen Wright, and this was published Little Brown and Company, Boston, in 1998. Then there's a really well-known book on the art of fiction called The Art of Fiction. It's by David Lodge, one I'd highly recommend. Illustrated from classic and modern text, Viking, and this came out in 1992. So you have, say he talks about the beginning, so it'd be Jane Austen, Ford Madox Ford. The Intrusive Author, George Eliot and E.M. Forster. Suspense, Thomas Hardy. The epistolary novel, Michael Frayn. Mystery, Rudyard Kipling. Interior monologue, James Joyce. The comic novel, Kingsley Amis. Magic realism, Milan Kundera. A Sense of the Past, John Fowles. You get the idea. So, wonderful book. Then we have Francis Prose, Reading Like a Writer. A guide for people who love books and for those who want to write like them. Or write them, not write like them. Excuse me. This came out in, it's a HarperCollins Publishers out of New York, and came out in 2006. Then I have 3 Tolkien books. I have Tolkien books everywhere. I got a bunch upstairs. This is Meditations on Middle-earth. Karen Haber, editor. John Howe, illustrator. Lovely thing. Paper. And it's St. Martin's Griffin, New York, a Byron Priest book. Copyright 2001. It's in memory of Poole Anderson, an author who I really enjoyed. So you've got introduction by George Railroad Martin, preface by Karen Haber. You got Raymond Feist, Poole Anderson, Michael Swanwick, Harry Turtledove, Terry Pratchett, Robin Hobb, Ursula K. Le Guin, Diane Duane, who I really like, Douglas A. Anderson, Orson Scott Card, Charles DeLint, Lisa Goldstein, Esther M. Freisner, Glenn Herdling, and then Terry Windling. And then you have author biographies, so it's sort of a homage compilation. Then you have a very famous book, Humphrey Carpenter's The Inkling, C.S. Lewis, J.R.R. Tolkien, Charles Williams and Their Friends. Old edition here. This is first American edition from '79. George Allen and Unwin in England published it the previous year, '78. So this one's Boston, Houghton Mifflin and Company. Well-known book, I think. Yeah, there's some illustrations. Let's see if I can throw some of those up here. So there's Charles William. And then another Tolkien, Tolkien's Art. And that's a revised edition, Jane Chance, A Mythology for England. University of Press of Kentucky. This is 2001. Now, here my kids upstairs. It's Columbus Day, so they're off from school. This is the best poems of the English language from Chaucer through Frost, selected with a commentary by Harold Bloom. And this is copyright 2004. And this is a, let me see here. HarperCollins Publishers. So you start off with The Art of Reading Poetry, then we have Geoffrey Chaucer, William Dunbar, Petrarchian Poetry, Sir Thomas Wyatt, Sir Philip Sidney, Edmund Spenser, Sir Walter Raleigh, Christopher Marlowe, I'm just jumping around, Ben Jonson, John Milton, William Blake, Robert Burns, Samuel Johnson, Williams Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Lord Byron, John Keats, Shelley, Walter Savage Landor, Thomas Love Peacock, Longfellow, Emerson, Thomas Lovell Beddoes, Henry David Thoreau, Whitman, Dickinson, Tennyson, who I love, Robert Browning, William Morris, Yeats, Hardy, and moving right along, the new Princeton Encyclopedia of Poetry and Poetics, the most comprehensive guide to world poetry, edited by Alex Preminger and TVF Brogan. A bit of a beast of a thing. This is MJF Books, New York. And 1993 was a Princeton University Press copyright, and this is an edition that MJF published in cooperation with them. So this is neat because, so Albanian poetry, it's alphabetical, American poetry, Baroque, Chinese poetry, epic. So you have big long articles, and they'll the epic is epic. So they'll have, I don't know if you can see it here very well, they'll have a bit of a big bibliography at the end. Italian poetry, Marxist criticism, romantic and post-romantic poetics, simile, stylistic, textual criticism. And then moving right along, the Norton Introduction to Poetry by J. Paul Hunter. Right here. Another one of these Norton books that I seem to really enjoy. I learn a lot from them. So, this is the 7th edition. New York, W.W. Norton and Company. Originally from 73, this is 99. So, poetry, reading, responding, writing. So it starts out with Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Denise Levertov, who I enjoyed, Ben Jonson, writing about poems, responding, understanding the text. So a big old guide. Here's a just to give you an example of what the pages look like. So this is a book here, The Art and Craft of Poetry, What Works, What Doesn't, and Why, what methods to, with methods to generate poems with examples from Shakespeare to Olds, by Michael J. Buhega, or Bugea. I hope I'm not ruining the pronunciation of his name. This is a Writer's Digest Book Club book, and this was published in 1994. It's quite handy with exercises at the end. So here's a thing on the line. It's a good way to learn about poetry. Really sort of enjoyed this book. Then continuing a sort of a theme, The Making of a Poem, a Norton Anthology of Poetic Forms by Mark Strand and Evan Boland. And this is the W.W. Norton Company, New York, London, and this is from 2000. So let's see here. The pastoral, the meter, stanza, heroic couplet, blank verse, sestina, the villanelle. Then again, same idea. Patterns of Poetry in Encyclopedia Forms by Miller Williams. And this was Louisiana State University Press, Baton Rouge in London. And this is from 1986. So notes on the elements of poetic forms, fully defined traditional stanza patterns. And I go through all of them. Loosely defined traditional stanza patterns, traditional poems of set length, indefinite lengths, formal elements, the whole 9 yards. So here, I'll give you an example how that works. And then we go to the exaltation of forms. Contemporary poets celebrate the diversity of their art, edited by Annie Finch and Catherine Barnes. And here we have, this is Ann Arbor, University of Michigan Press, but it looks like 2005. So who do we have in here? I'm just going to give you, on meters, they have Paul Hoover, John Ridlin, Anthony Heck, Rosanna Warren. Yeah, received forms. I won't go through every name. Principles for formal experimentation. Bibliography with sources for further reading. Contributors index. So, give you an example of what that might look like. And here's Robert Pinsky, The Situation of Poetry, Contemporary Poetry and Its Traditions. Princeton Essays and Literature is the series, and this is Princeton University Press, Princeton, New Jersey, and it's 1976, although it looks like this is the 6th printing. So you can see where I've made little notes. Very interesting book by poet I enjoy. And this is Introspections, American Poets, on one of their own poems. Robert Pack and Jay Perini edited this. I enjoy Jay Perini's work. Let's see, Middlebury College Press is where Perini teaches. Hanover and London, this is published by University Press of New England. And it is from 90, where is it from? Looks like the whole thing is from like 97, 98. They broke it up oddly. So you'll have, okay, Critical Disobedience, 9 Ways of Looking at a Poem. These are just articles. Erica Zhang's poem there. Give you examples of what you're trying to do. Maxine Kuhn. Then we go to another Harold Bloom. Ruin, The Sacred Truths, Poetry and Belief from the Bible to the Present. Quite an attractive cover, actually. It's a paper version. Got this at Borders. I don't see those much anymore. I don't even know if you can see it on there. It is, that's not true. It has a little thrift store tag on it. Oh well, I paid even less than I thought. So it is a Harvard University Press, Cambridge, Mass. in London, England. And it's from 1989. So from Homer to Dante, Milton, Enlightenment and Romanticism, Hebrew Bible. It's very interesting. And then finally, after a lot of poetry, this is Conversations with Contemporary Poets, Range of the Possible, Interviews by Todd Marshall. This was published by Eastern Washington University Press, Spokane, and it is from 2002. So, Kim Adonizo, Linda Bartz, Gillian Connolly, Robert Haas, Brenda Hillman, Edward Hirsch, Christopher Howell, Claudia Keelan, Youssef Komanyaka, Doreen Lowe, Lee Young Lee, Laura Mullen, Lucia Perillo, Ben Ramke, Donna Ravel, Dave Smith, David St. John, Nance Van Winkle, Caroline Wright, Robert Wrigley, quite a list of interviews. So here's Lee Young Lee, and there's that. So that's poetry. That was the end of the first shelf of the 8 bookcase. A lot of this went from literature into specifically poetry, and shelf 2 will start that way but begin to move away from the poetry a little bit. So thank you, BookTube.